Potential mold and mildew growth, worsened indoor air quality, gradual structural damage due to accumulated moisture, wood rot fungus, unstable floors temperature, insects infestation with dust mite and termite colonies, critters hazard, declined energy efficiency with higher air conditioning and heating costs, unpleasant odors. All this can take place in your house if it's located in high humidity climate and built on Crawlspace foundation. And the best way to prevent all of the issues mentioned above is to encapsulate your Crawlspace. My property is located in Myrtle Beach area, South Carolina, which is one of the top vacation spots on East Coast because of sunny climate and ocean proximity. During the warm season, South Carolina weather is dominated by the position of Bermuda High, high-pressure system located over the Atlantic Ocean, which provides a persistent flow of warm, moist air into the region. So all of the houses built on Crawlspaces are experiencing high humidity accumulation due to moist air penetrating there through gaps, cracks, and open vents. And other causes are groundwater, uncovered soil, and plumbing leaks. Encapsulating your Crawlspace is the best service you can do to mitigate dampness and humidity there, which causes mentioned above numerous other problems your house and its residents will be experiencing. My one-story property is a duplex and relatively big with close to 1,500 square feet of footprint. Encapsulating Crawlspace work was done by a local Myrtle Beach company, Carolina Energy Conservation. By the time of signing up for this project, I already spent a handful of months in Crawlspace of this property, checking plumbing and replumbing, working on foundation leveling floors, inspecting new HVAC duct work, and even waking up one of my employees who took a nap there after a night of drinking. So I knew the layout of my Crawlspace to the T. It got little over 2 feet from the ground to floor joists. The more room you have to move, the easier it will be to maneuver around and get the job done. And theoretically, the better quote you're gonna get from contractor doing this project. I already had access to Crawlspace through the part of knocked out of bricks wall foundation, just enough to enter the space. It was our main entry point. I had one more opening from the other side of the property. Let's rock and roll. First part of work is good cleanup.
What's happening?
Contractors who are working in Crawlspaces for the entire lifetime of any property have tendency to leave stuff behind, because allegedly homeowner not gonna crawl in tight place and check after contractors, and often it's just time consuming to drag something through entire Crawlspace to get it out. So all of the old foundational bricks, wood, plumbing pipes, trash, concrete bags can be found underneath your house and need to be collected and removed, especially hard or sharp items that potentially might rupture the encapsulation material, even if it's very strong and durable though.
Yeah, we've seen before where they've had the entire plumbing redone and all the previous plumbing was just left.
Drained.
Oh yeah. Cast iron pipe that weighs
with the smell.
300 pounds and has dried sewage.
Simply speaking, what we mean by fancy sounding word encapsulating is enclosing or encasing the space, sealing it as it's a capsule. So all of the vents, gaps, cracks in the Crawlspace should be found and sealed, an entire area covered with a durable vapor barrier material. Typically it's reinforced polyethylene plastic sheeting, or you can use short name poly, that comes in a variety of thicknesses and strengths. The range is typically from 6 to 20 mils, with 6 mils being the bare minimum and 20 mils being the most heavy duty and puncture resistant. Mil is a measurement that equals 1/1000th of an inch. So if you have materials as 12 mils thick, that means it's 0.012 of an inch thick. Typically, Crawlspace encapsulation companies offer few options of vapor barriers. Obviously, 16 and 20 mil thick sheets will be more expensive, but they are most durable. Those poly sheetings are used to cover the ground where is the most load of rare but still human traffic with possible items carried and laid on the surface, including heavy-duty tools. Thin liner that's used for sealing foundation walls and piers that don't have any load from external objects is called crawl curtain and feels like it's wrapping paper with a coating on it. Often you can see homeowners with do-it-yourself projects or even professionals running one type of sheet everywhere, on the ground and on the walls. For encapsulation of my Crawlspace, we use crawl curtain liner for piers and brick foundation walls and the thickest and most durable 20mm vapor barrier poly sheeting to cover the ground. First phase of laying material is wrapping piers with crawl liner. Structural piers can come in all different forms and shapes, from cinder blocks to bricks and wood, and depending on age of the house and quality of construction might look dysfunctional and odd, or without having any symmetrical meaningful layout. Regardless, you need to wrap them all around with poly liner. We just did lifting up leveling floor work prior that you can check on my other video, so in my Crawlspace you're gonna see different looking piers, which is not the issue as much as they serve the purpose of structural support of floors leveling. To attach crawl curtain liner, we're using sealant adhesive Magic from your Crawlspace brand.
Put that all the way around.
You put good thick line of sealant around the pier and then wrap it around with pre-cut crawl curtain liner, having the blue side facing the pier, and the little built-in activation strip few inches wide is getting attached to the sealant line. You can easily identify the activation strip because it's the only white part of this side of liner. The rest is blue, and the other side is bright white, which is obviously the outer part and considered as the front. It takes just up to a few hours for adhesive to dry and seal the liner. Important: depending on local or state codes, you must leave certain interval between your vapor barrier and house wood for termite inspection, if you have termite bond agreement or you want to get one, which is the warranty of termite prevention treatment in the structure. In our state of South Carolina, it's no less than 6 inches and can vary from state to state. When inspector comes, you must have the 6-inch gap of masonry foundation wall or structural pier between your encapsulating poly sheets, or even if you have any type of continuous insulation, and the house frame in wood such as seal plate or any wood blocks or shims if was used in Piers build. Simply saying 6 inches between vapor barrier and any house foundational part touching wood. You can see in the video that some piers we put around Crawlspace had different size of wood blocks or shims over cinder blocks, so the height of liner did vary, trying to keep 6-inch difference to have masonry open until wood. Remember, if you don't have it and heaven forbid you got termite infestation with colony eating wood, your termite bond can be dropped and you will not get repaid for damages. After wrapping up the pier, you make cuts on the corners of liner, having bottom parts to go over the ground. You seal with adhesive the side part of your curtain wrap as well. Two types of gaps you will see and need to seal: gaps between seal plate and foundation, and vents. Entire house wood framing sits on the foundation out of cinder blocks or bricks. The older the house, the higher chance you're gonna see some gaps between the bottom of wood framing, which are seal plates, and top of foundation wall, which is out of bricks in my house. The reason is lack of supervision in construction from local authorities and not developed building codes, as well as less sophisticated tools people were operating with. Nowadays, builders in new constructions using foam seal between the foundation and framing, which is allowed by International Residential Code, but for old houses like mine, you need to go with seal foam all around the perimeter. For my project, the guys were using zip, window and door foam and dispensing gun. Also sprayed in the openings between the bricks. If you randomly see them, there is a tiny chance though. Building code requires every crawlspace to have vents to allow air circulation. Ironically, depending on climate and time of season, they can do more harm than good to the air quality inside of your crawlspace, when you need to either close them on winter to save pipes from overfreezing, or then open on summer to prevent humid air trap. With all the variables in climates and seasonal temperatures like humid air, dry air, cold, hot, humid air holds heat, cold air is dry air. It gets very confusing and huge topic for debates. What is the best way how to maneuver those vents year around, and could it be any alternative to all this uncertainty? Encapsulating is the best option to eliminate the struggles of dealing with all the unsureness about vents and crawl space air quality if you live in high humidity climates. So obviously you need to seal all of the vents not to have any air gaps and leaks in your crawl space. Before encapsulation project, we actually went cold turkey with my helper and bricked in almost all of the vents we had matching existing bricks foundation. We actually missed two behind the bushes in front of the house, so those were sealed by the encapsulation company using foam board. There are different types of those. Regular rigid foam boards with pink panther on it that you could buy in home improvement stores work as well. We are using them just to close the gaps. Critical! If your property is by the water feature and considered to be in a flood zone, it's all different game regarding your vents and crawl space. Because now you must have at least one vent and possibly more open and can't shut them. When your house is in a flood zone, your vents become in flood openings or flood vents. By letting flood water automatically enter and exit your crawl space, the vents are protecting your house from its walls and foundation potential destruction by preventing hydrostatic pressure buildup. If you have mortgage, most of lenders and lending institutions require you to have flood insurance if you own house in flood risk zone. And when you decide to go for closing vents and encapsulating crawl space disregarding theoretical foundation walls damage by the flood water if natural disaster occurs, your flood insurance premium actually will go higher because in the eyes of insurance company, you're dropping the level of your house to the ground level. So be very attentive what you want to do with your crawl space if your property is in a flood zone. For walls, you're using again crawl curtain liner and following the same technique as was done on wrapping the piers. Run the layer of sealant along the perimeter and attach white activation strip of curtain sheet to it having blue side facing the wall. Depending on at least state requirements, remember to keep 6 inches difference for termite bond between your poly sheet and the wood above foundation wall, which will be a seal plate. Often companies offer to put rigid foam boards around the crawl space foundation wall's perimeter, which would serve not just as wall insulation, but also as a good surface for curtain liner to bond. You definitely can consider this option, will be more costly though. I went without foam boards insulation, and you can see the attachment of curtain liner to the brick wall seems a little rough, but still does the job. Shout out to high quality adhesive. However, it could be way easier to attach sheets to foam boards. Have at least 6-8 inches of liner overlap on the ground, so the bottom sheet is gonna lay above it. After relatively thin crawl curtain liner was put above the piers and walls, it's time for the thick boy. Super durable 20mm vapor barrier sheet to go over the ground around entire crawl space. Those rolls coming from Basement Systems brand, and diving into material science, it's 7-layer polyethylene composition with polyester and reinforcement. I do sports almost every day, but I cannot win the fight against this 20mm thick polyethylene. The sheets come in big wide rolls. Pretty much doesn't matter you want to lay them across or along your crawl space, but you need to have a good plan and measurements of your working area so you can split it in sections and cut the material accordingly.
This is probably for the end, right? The last piece in the end.
You don't want to crawl underneath in and out for every single sheet, so you can plan a little ahead. Project for at least 6-8 inches overlap, or maybe even 1 foot to have one sheet to go over another. And just in case if you're little off with measurements, those extra inches might save you from cutting or wasting material. The cuts around the piers or any plumbing sticking out of the ground can be done easily and should be done inside the crawl space. Preferably have all plumbing lines, electrical wires or HVAC ducts strapped to the joist above so it's not on the way of the work. Plan for about a foot overlap on the walls, and any extra of the material can be trimmed in the working area.
And then I'm gonna cut it and make it level all the way down through here.
You cut the sheets on the angles of the piers when they meet them, keeping some vertical overlap and accounting for angle cuts not to go farther than the points where the pier is meeting the ground. You still have extra of curtain liner coming from the pier down, so the tape will do the rest of the job sealing all sheets. Speaking of which, the tape used on this project is from brand Crawlspace, extremely sticky and durable. Reminded me the flex tape, that's how dead strong it is. As you understand, you tape in all the seams between the ground vapor barrier sheets, as well as between those and curtain liner on walls and piers. Remember to have some sort of overlap underneath the sheets, so your tape doesn't serve as a connector of two edges, but adhering liner over liner. You don't want to have too many pieces of liner on the ground, and preferably to have one continuous, but honestly I had an impression that it doesn't even matter because of how strong is the tape keeping it all together and how perfectly it blends with vapor barrier surface. Slightly stretch the liner so you don't have massive humps, but do not overstretch. The sheets need to lay fully on the ground, account for full weight of the person crawling on it, so he doesn't feel like he's conquering hammock, putting strain on taped edges. If you have any objects sitting on the ground or coming out of it and you are not comfortable to cut or move them, for example big plumbing sewer line laying down or water pipe coming off the ground, you can just leave them alone, cutting a hole in vapor barrier or simply lay sheets around. Taping sheets to the objects might be not doable or just overall not the best idea, so you might end up with small gaps where air from the ground penetrates through, which is often called soil gases. But believe me, it won't make any difference on your encapsulated Crawlspace performance. Speaking of which... do they exist and are they getting built up in your Crawlspace? Technically, if it's properly encapsulated, which is sealed, without those random objects I have on the ground, there is no way for soil gases, if those created somehow, even to get into Crawlspace, because it's insulated, so air from the ground has no openings to get inside. I do agree with professionals and EPA that preferably you must have your Crawlspace somehow ventilated, not just encapsulated for the sake of getting rid of humidity. So instead of sealing all vents, it's better to install in one of the openings Crawlspace ventilation fan. Few problems I see with it. Vast majority of vent fans are working 24/7, just increasing your power bill. And how much of air you really need to ventilate on regular basis? Definitely not that much. Where the makeup air is coming from? Technically, if your Crawlspace is encapsulated, guess where the vent fan is gonna draw the air from? Most likely your subfloor is not perfectly insulated, if insulated at all. So the vent fan gonna find gaps and crevices and draw air from inside of your house, making your HVAC system working to compensate for it. In some municipalities, there is a requirement to have one more vent literally open to contribute to creating makeup air in Crawlspace, so installed vent fan can pull it, which you definitely don't want in humid climates, because your dehumidifier will be working double harder. Intimidating phrase soil gases hazard is definitely blown out of proportions. There is no simple gadget or mirror to check on those. Surveys should be conducted and special equipment used for screening. Overall term in soil gases is very vague. Theoretically, you smell those picking dandelions from the ground because you bend and your nostrils are close to Earth's surface. Way different story is radon problem, which can be measured and need to be aware of. There is even EPA map of radon zones, where you can see areas with the potential for elevated indoor radon levels. Typically, it's the problem in houses with basements in northern climates. Instead of soil gases, I would better use phrase build-up air, which again no way to track and assess considering that it might have communication with air above from your house. So it's a topic for debates and way advanced testing should be done to offer the best solution to homeowners. In my project we went without vent fan. I have dual access to Crawlspace from both sides. Just simply opening both door panels will already create ventilation, so as regular inspections of your Crawlspace or person entering for home repair purposes when one of the Crawlspace doors staying open. If you go for installing vent fan, choose the one that you can control, not to have it running 24/7, which is definitely just blowing money on electrical usage. No matter what you had prior on your crawlspace entry, piece of plywood or built out of wood or other materials cover hanging loosely, but you need to have legit properly sealed crawlspace door. I like the technique the guys used to build two of mine, since I had openings on both sides of the house. The brand of the kit that was used is Everlast Crawlspace door. Briefly about this build. You frame the entryway you have with 2x4s on all sides.
I touched.
If you don't have flat sides of your opening, let's say how in my case the bricks were knocked out randomly, you don't have to get the grinder and make it straight flat cutting bricks. You can just overlap entire opening with your future door. On the bottom we had U-channel, where the door will be inserted in and it's connected with screws to the bricks. The material for the door is half-inch thick PVC plastic that is just indestructible. You measure and cut it with few inches overlap on each side of your framed entryway. If you have smashed bricks on the sides, just make sure you are overlapping those gaps. On each side of 2x4s installed for framing the opening, or the brick if it's rough side, you drill half-inch diameter and 2-inch deep holes, putting an anchor that comes with the kit in each hole. Depending on placement, drill the same size holes in PVC door accordingly. The last step is to attach weather stripping around the perimeter of the door. Now you can put it on and screw provided in kit knobs in place when the project is over. As you can see on the video, the entryways are perfectly sealed. The weather stripping on the edges are getting slightly pressed down with screwing knobs, creating tight defensive block. The perfect placement of the humidifier is in the middle of your crawlspace, so it can draw the air from everywhere, being in equal distance from all of the spots. Depending on the height of your crawlspace and flood or water intrusion concerns, try to locate the humidifier as high as possible. In my 2.5 foot high crawlspace, the guys simply set it on cinder blocks. You don't need to mount it to anything, as the unit itself is very heavy and unless under powerful force will not get moved. Obviously you need outlet to plug the humidifier into. 120 regular voltage is enough. I didn't have it, so the guys ran the wire from electrical panel located outside and mounted the receptacle to the joist above. Brand new 20 amp circuit breaker was put in place. The dehumidifier that was installed is semi-dry Sedona, relatively small in size yet powerful enough to lower the humidity. It got automatic humidity sensor for effective control. There is little display on the dehumidifier showing current level of humidity or the desired one when you press buttons to adjust it. When humid air is converted to water by the unit, it needs help from additional device to get it out. So you need to use the pump and connect it to the dehumidifier. You use vinyl tubes, running one from dehumidifier to the pump and another one from pump to outside of the house.
It's nicely stapled to the joists in the framing of the crawlspace and continues to go down.
For my property, small tube size hole was drilled through foundation bricks. Unless it's first time usage after installation in extremely humid crawlspace, you're not gonna have gallons of water being pumped out, so having tube close to the house foundation is not a problem. After initial first time heavy extraction of the water that you can see on the video, the humidifier kicks on automatically if it got work to do, when humidity level in crawlspace is raising up, which doesn't happen often due to your crawlspace being enclosed. According to Environmental Protection Agency, the best indoor humidity level falls between 30 and 50%, and other studies suggest 40 to 60% is the better range. Regardless, 60% seems to be the agreed upon threshold for humidity level inside of your property. Since you have direct link between crawlspace and indoor of your house, you should follow the rule of thumb and keep humidity level in crawlspace in the same range as recommended for health and comfort. My dehumidifier is set to 53%.
Got the sensor.
I'm gonna open this access panel to the crawlspace.
I'm gonna leave our sensor.
6 a.m. in the morning in Myrtle Beach area, and I continue to track our device. It's 53% the humidity level in the crawlspace, and as you can see, it's 40% difference. I'm next to this sweet noisy baby dehumidifier. The magic that it's doing throughout the crawl space is second to none, and I'm gonna shut it off. It's not gonna kick it back on again, but just to be safe, you can unplug both the dehumidifier and the pump. Still leave the lights on to make sure that the crawl space will not attract the rodents. It's been a day since I shut off the dehumidifier, and the humidity level here in the crawl space is still steady and on a good levels. It's chilly here.
Weather alert. Tropical storm warning around current location. Weather alert. Tornado warning in about 10 miles from current location.
I will need to seal the crawl space because we have tropical storm, and I'm just concerned that a lot of rainwater might penetrate inside. 99% humidity outside, and it already raised to 62 in the crawl space without dehumidifier working. Resort, Myrtle Beach. Hurricane Idalia, that was downgraded to tropical storm when it hit South Carolina, passed by relatively quick without causing any significant damage to the area or anticipated typically flooding around Myrtle Beach. And the crawl space is keeping up as 62%, which is considered a little over than the average recommended. My testing is completed. Well, it's time to plug everything back on. Pump got turned on right away. As you can see, it's already pulling the water. I guess there was water left in the dehumidifier, maybe in the pan. Power it on. You can go down to 40%, but we stick to industry standard recommended. Sealed. Almost 6 hours since I turned on the dehumidifier. As you can see, the humidity level dropped down in the crawl space to 57%. You can see how secured is the plastic to the walls. My air filter after 1 year of usage is in pretty good shape. I don't see any layer of particles or dust on it, so it can keep going. Shout out to Clean Crawlspace. The grill of the dehumidifier is so clean. Hope you like this video. Subscribe to my channel not to miss on my future home improvement and construction projects.